Hello and welcome back to another video here on the Mato FM channel. Now, the first thing we've got to address is the elephant in the room. Why has it been so long since a video? Well, I think we all know why. FM is not to be seen anywhere, but the very good news is that November 4th it's finally coming out. I think we will have a 2-week early access period. The game is looking absolutely incredible, so stick around for that, remain patient, and I cannot wait for that. But I thought we might as well get a bit of momentum going, keep it up. It's been so frustrating to not make content, but I thought I'd get into it and do these videos that we've been doing for the last few weeks. It is the week previews of the Premier League, and I think the first place to look at is the team in the FPL. Now, I was strongly considering for this week making the wildcard move, which I'm sure a lot of people will be doing. My rank has been recovering. I feel like it's a common theme. I make some really good picks every year, really intelligent picks, but there's just some that let me down so much that just don't make no sense. And I think it's happened here once again, and now I'm trying to recover my rank, but I recover quite steadily. But I don't think this team needs wildcarding as of right now. I've got a transfer which I'm going to be saving going into next week, and then we can make the 2 transfers. I did make 2 transfers last week. I took out Watkins and Wan-Bissaka for Livramento and Isak. I did have a little bit of money over. The only real transfer that made sense to me this week was Verbruggen. He's been very underwhelming. I did want to bring in Donnarumma, but I was about 0.2 million under, which was quite annoying. I would have brought Donnarumma in. I think City. He's not a City defender, but I guess he gets the same points as a City defender. At least he's nailed on. We do know that, so it's looking. The team is looking good. It's a lot healthier. I've not even shown the subs bench because that's where it's absolutely dire. I don't know what went on with those picks, but we've got obviously Verbruggen in the goal there. Livramento, he's got a tough fixture at home against Arsenal, but who knows what he can do in that game. Though we'll take a look at that fixture in a little while. We've got Van de Ven, who's got Wolves at home. Should be an easy 6 points, maybe even get a return in there as well. We've got Van Dijk against Crystal Palace. Now, we've got 5 players who are playing against each other in the form of, we've got Palmer and Verbruggen who are playing against each other, so we'll have to make a compromise with them probably, but it could be the best thing out of that maybe is a Verbruggen penalty save from Palmer, and then Palmer scores the rebound. That would be always nice. But we do have Van Dijk and Munoz. We also have Salah, Isak, Mateta. We kind of just want a high-scoring game in that one. Virgil came in for Frimpong when I had to take him out. I think Munoz has been really good asset so far. He is a bit costly for his returns, but I still think he has been alright based off of his effective ownership. So the back line is in a good position. We've got Kudus, who has had kind of a slow few weeks. He did get a return last week out, but I think it still makes sense, and it's 6.5 million. There's no real doubt with that. My captain for this week is going to be Mo Salah. I've kind of gone against him in the last few weeks, and it has worked in my favour. Last week I did go for Mateta, and he did score. I went for Grealish the week before, or was it? I think it was the week before. If we're on game week 6 now, Grealish one of the weeks, and he got 2 assists if I'm not mistaken. So it definitely worked out in the end. I think Palmer might have been a captain one game. He was a captain, and he basically what happened was he got injured in the warm up, and then my vice captain was Kudus, and Man City versus Tottenham. That was the game where obviously Tottenham always go on to win. Kudus should have got a return. He didn't get a return. Very disappointing, really. I forgot to change vice captain, but it would have made sense. And then in the attack, we've obviously spoke about Mateta. I think it makes sense to hold on to him for now. I did bring Isak in. Now I will be honest. These transfers with Livramento and Isak were done thinking I would wildcard this week, but it's kind of worked out a little bit more in my favour. Livramento is obviously a very good asset to have at 5 million, but Isak will definitely be starting, if I'm not mistaken, with Ekitike now being suspended. I thought suspension only applied to the cup, but it does go over to the league as well according to the FPL app, so I do believe Isak will be playing, and in the league he did get a goal in that game in the week against Southampton, and I do think he can go and get his goals, start to work on those points, and I think it'll be worth it. Now, there's no Haaland in this team. If there was going to be a wild card, it probably will start to be centred around Haaland, maybe even moving away from Salah, but I'm going to be safe with that pick on Salah. Maybe it changes to Grealish, who knows. We don't really know. Obviously this is recorded a little bit in advance to the deadline. Grealish has West Ham at home. I think there was he had a very good bit of momentum. Will that continue for so long? I'm not too sure. I still think he can get a return. But yeah, West Ham at home. Kudus, even Van de Ven could be a very good option, with trying to regain the rank. I think I'm up to around 5 million now, which obviously is not that good, but from where it was, and considering how many players there are as well, it's not bad. It's very, very important to go and make differential captains, and I've had, to be honest, the most success ever with the differential captains 2 weeks in a row where it's gone quite well, even if we had that Palmer incident. I've tried some very crazy things before and it's not gone too bad, but sometimes we have to play a bit cautious as well, throw a bit of caution to the wind by going with Salah potentially in this week. We'll have to see. Crystal Palace away is a tough game, but he's not had a big haul yet, and I think he is due one as well, especially with the games he has coming up. So I think it makes sense to potentially have him as the favourite for the captain going into this game week. Now, in terms of the games that we have coming up in this game week, looking like an interesting game week. Not as many big games, but there is obviously a big game in that 4:30 Sunday slot, and some interesting ones. Particularly, I think it's quite a good week for the FPL, as we just saw there. We've got Brentford versus Man United in the early game there, the lunchtime game. I think obviously it's another must-win game for Ruben Amorim. I think that game will be a 1-1 draw. I can see that being played out like that. No one will be really too convincing in that one, so I think that is a result that makes sense. We've got 4 games, is it? Yeah, 4 games in at 3 o'clock on the Saturday. 3 top 6 teams are in that game. We've got Chelsea versus Brighton. That will be an interesting game. Brighton have had an interesting start, so have Chelsea. I think Chelsea can get the win though at home. I'm seeing a 2-1 win in that game there for Chelsea. We've got Crystal Palace versus Liverpool. Now, you'll know me, I'm a very, very big fan of Crystal Palace, and I think it's very justified. I said they would finish very highly last year. We saw what happened. If you saw that, they're reacting to my predictions video, and then I've predicted them to do alright this season. They will obviously be playing in their first games in the Conference League as well soon, which is very exciting for them. But it is Liverpool 5 out of 5. I think Crystal Palace will cause them problems, but I don't see how they'll stop them. I do see Liverpool winning this game 2-1. I think is a fair result. Liverpool have struggled with the kind of, well, they've not struggled with the late winners, but they've had to resort to some late winners, and we could potentially see a similar situation in this game. But it is a very interesting one nonetheless. We've got Leeds versus Bournemouth. Leeds have had a very good competitive start. Bournemouth have had an even better start, and I think it'll be a very, very interesting game, very underrated game of this week. But I do think, I don't know actually, I was thinking Bournemouth, but I've just changed my mind. I do think it could be a very interesting game. I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw in that one. Who knows how the goals will go down, whether Bournemouth could strike first, whether Leeds take a bit of a quick lead in that one. But I think 2-2 draw is a result that makes sense. We've got Man City versus Burnley. Burnley have not had their worst start to a season. They've done all right by their standards, I guess you could say, but Man City have been good. They have been good. There's clearly a marked improvement there. I think they were quite good against Arsenal last week, despite the result. Obviously started very, very well in that game, which was quite an underwhelming game, but the less said about that, the better. I do think they are recovering, and this should be a very convincing game for them. I'm thinking a 4-0 win in that one there, and would be ashamed to not have Donnarumma in that one, but what can you do? It's and Haaland as well, actually. What can you do about that, really? We've got Forest versus Sunderland. That will be a very, very interesting game. Sunderland will be the travelling team, and that will make it a bit more difficult for them. Like I said as well, Sunderland are another team who I gave a lot more respect to than a lot of other people have at the start of this season. I think Sunderland could have a very competitive game here, as they have for the whole season. I said they would survive, and it's games like this where they really need to go and try and take a point, against a team like Forest. I see a 1-1 draw in this game. I think we've had quite a few 0-0 draws already in this season, but I'm seeing goals in these games, and I do think Forest and Sunderland will go the same way, getting that 1-1 draw. Still a very, very good game on a tactical level. Then we've got Tottenham versus Wolves. Wolves, like I said, I don't know if I've predicted them 20th. I feel like I might have, or it might have been Burnley, who I said would finish right at the bottom. and it's very justified as to why they would, because you know they're just not gonna be able to cope with all those losses. I do think it's gonna be 6 out of 6 losses after this game week, and I'm gonna go for a 3-0 win for Tottenham in this game. Tottenham are, you know, the team that always surprise. They could lose this game. If to be honest, it could be not anything could happen really, but I do think Tottenham could get it. I will go with a 3-0 win in that game. We've got Villa versus Fulham in the 2 o'clock game on the Sunday. That will be an interesting game. Villa have a game on Thursday in the Europa League, so how that will play out for them with, you know, resting players and stuff like that. They'll want their best team in Europe, but Emery is, I believe he is known to kind of rotate a little bit in Europe, so it could be interesting to see how that goes. I do think Villa can get some points, start to get some points in this game. Will it be enough points though? I don't really know. I see a 1-1 draw in this game. It'll be an underwhelming one, let's just put it that way. We've got Newcastle versus Arsenal, probably the talk of the weekend. A very, very interesting one, always an interesting one that is there. Newcastle at St James's Park, can they go and have a good game against Arsenal? I think it will be an interesting one. It could be very, very good. Arsenal have had, I wouldn't like to say a bad start, but they have had some very tough games. I do think Arsenal can come away with the win in this one though, and get a 2-1 win. It will be a very interesting one though, and it's always special at St James's Park. It's good to see that Newcastle have really built a good team, and you know, when you see a game, who would have thought 5 years ago, you know, this is what football is all about really. If you see Newcastle in a game, it's what you'd think of like Burnley or Wolves, and obviously it's been a crazy time for them, and now it's nice to see that there'll be an interesting game there against Arsenal. And then finally on Monday it is the 8 o'clock game there. We've got Everton versus West Ham. West Ham very lacklustre start really. It's not been good, but I do think it will be a decent game. But Everton at home, what have they got to lose? I don't think they do lose this game. I think they'll come away with a 2-0 win in that game. That I think they'll be able to shut out West Ham. They've had a very, very good start, and under the management of David Moyes, it's been very, very convincing, and I do think they can get the win in that game there. It'll be a very, very competitive one, and so is all these fixtures. It's a good set of fixtures, you know. There's not really a massive standout game or lots of massive standout games. It feels like a bit of a filler week, but if you look a bit deeper into some of the games that we do have, there's definitely a lot of potential for good quality games, and as well a lot of potential for some FPL returns. So hopefully that happens. So there you have it. Thank you for watching this video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe. We're getting closer to that day, the day we've been waiting for all this time. It looks incredible. It's looking absolutely amazing, and I can't wait for it to come out. And yeah, hopefully you stick around for then. I can't wait for it. I'll leave you with this little tune, and I'll see you all again for another video. Thank you. Bye bye.